Okay, here we go.
Actually, you don't even have a desktop, do you?
I don't have a desktop. All right, so you can see.
Yeah.
Let me make sure the audio is up.
Haven't you ever wondered?
Wait, isn't this the old one?
No. This is the one that released a couple days ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Haven't you ever wondered? What else?
I hate her voice.
All right, yeah. It's like one of the things that yeah, one of the things that did stand out to me at the beginning of the trailer is like, and I don't know if I've been spoiled by Peter Jackson or even my reading of the books. This doesn't the voice, the language. This doesn't sound Tolkien to me.
I think the writing's really off too. Yeah, I think that's
probably true.
I agree.
Sorry. Well, I was thinking, but like we were talking about this last week or whenever, right? Like Aragorn's speech before the Black Gate in the movies, that's not in the books. But the writer,
but it could be.
It could be exactly.
Yeah.
Like the writer really had that feel for like if Tolkien had written this is how it would have gone, and I think it was spot on. And that's not happening here, I don't think.
And there's a lot that they sort of ad-libbed, the script writers like that, like the introduction, the prologue, right? So good. All right.
Yeah.
What else is out there? There's wonders in this world.
I hate that line.
I'm wondering.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, that's all.
Oh,
Nothing further to add. Just can't stand.
Hold on. You might be right. Shit. Let's see.
Yeah, I think that is the old one. That's February, see.
Let's see. What's the one that happened 5 months ago? Shit. Here we go.
There you go, trailer 2.
I know I'm stupid. All right. I'm just, But everything I said before, it still holds.
There was a time when the world was so young. There had not yet been a sunrise. But even then, there was light.
All right. So, like, you can see here, where was it? Like, so these are the two trees.
Right.
In Valinor.
What's the other one?
I really don't remember off the top of my head. I guess I should have pulled that, right?
Anyway.
Yeah, and like, so yeah, these the two trees before there was the sun and the moon. But again, even like to your point, just this person's voice, whoever this is, I don't like it. It doesn't sound right to me.
It's like, yeah, play it again. I had a thought germinating on precisely. I was thinking more of the words she was speaking. But yeah, even the sound does come a little weird on my end, though. It sounds kind of gurgly. I don't know.
Oh, it might just be because it's going through my computer, and I don't have a fancy setup. So
does it sound gurgly when I play it on mine?
I know you can try.
Yeah, let me try sharing it real quick.
Let me bring these guys in since they're here. We're watching the Rings of Power trailer real quick.
Yeah. All right. Official teaser.
The one that was like 2 days ago or a day ago.
Well, there seems to be there's the Rings of Power trailer 2, and then there's main teaser. The main teaser is the one that I saw. This other one seems, I don't know if it's the same or not.
There's one you can see. It was uploaded. July 14th. So this was Thursday. Yesterday.
All right, well,
yeah, this was yesterday.
This was open yesterday, so I think this is it. Yeah, this is it. This is the same one. Okay.
You can try to share it if you want.
Yeah. I just got to hit all the right buttons and none of the wrong buttons.
That's right. Don't leave the studio this time.
Wait, screen 2 is this? Okay.
Make sure it's just sharing the audio.
I think I checked the box. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll keep the closed captioning on.
All right. Let's see.
All right. Volumes all the way amped.
All right.
There was a time when the world was so young.
It sounds fine.
There had not yet been a sunrise. But even then, there was light.
They're proud.
Yeah. All right. Can you stop right there? Because I remember one of the first things I thought when I listened to this was this again. Evan's point. Like maybe I am spoiled by the way like Peter Jackson did some of the music, but like that doesn't like that song that she was singing there. I hate it. There's a part
don't they still? Do they have Howard Shore again? I thought they had Howard Shore still.
I think so. I think
Yeah.
I think he's but that I mean that doesn't that's by itself mean anything. It should mean something. But anyway, I hate this song. It doesn't sound right to me. My ears might be spoiled, but
you have to distinguish between the Jackson of the original trilogy, where he was respectful of the material, and Jackson was on drugs during the production of The Hobbit.
Well, don't shit on Jackson too much for the second one, the Hobbit.
No, for The Hobbit.
Oh wait, sorry, maybe I misunderstood what you were saying.
Yeah, no, I wasn't. I was saying that for the. I do think that even the original trilogies get successively worse, but I think that by the time you hit Hobbit, it's just pure Jackson riffing on his own, I think, reflections on what he did with the film. So we're getting, it's degrees of removal from the material, and that's the only way you would ever produce a film using the Hobbit story and make it a prequel to Lord of the Rings, and then try to one-up it in grandeur and epic quality would be if you completely lost your way and you were thinking purely in terms of the movies now and not in terms of the sequence that Tolkien gave. That's not to say that you would have a bad movie if you departed from Tolkien somewhat, but do you know the chronology of the directors who were chosen for The Hobbit? First, originally just one film. It became a trilogy under Jackson's leadership. It was first.
Jackson, I think, pushed it for 2, didn't he? And then
it was first not Jackson. Jackson came on.
Right, I know. He was trying to salvage the project, from what I understand. It was sort of in bad shape.
Oh, okay.
And then he kind of had to pick up the pieces. Yeah. Like he didn't have nearly enough time. Like the Lord of the Rings had years of pre-production before anything was ever shot.
But this point I was trying to make though was like from reading the Lord of the Rings and even reading The Hobbit, when I watched the film and I saw the music and the songs that Howard Shore made for those characters, for those scenes, like it at least sort of resonated with the phantasm, the mental image that I had from reading the books, where what I just heard, this come to me, that doesn't, the melody, the words, none of that resonates with me from the Silmarillion, like at all. It doesn't match, I don't think, with, and it's something, it feels wrong.
If we're going to stay on this for a while, some principles that need to be just.
All right, let's go.
So first, it is, as I said earlier, it's entirely possible that somebody could take artistic license with Tolkien and still do a good job. In fact, if you're going to translate a book to film, you have to take artistic license.
Sure.
And I think it just so happened that with the trilogy, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, Jackson, where he took license, it was in the interest of conserving the spirit to the extent possible.
Yes.
In general.
The fact is that it seems most Hollywood writers are utterly incompetent and mostly illiterate themselves. So, if you leave behind a good book, you're going to dip more and more into the resources of bad Hollywood writers, right? So it's something of a balancing act. The further you get from the material, the worse the worse the writing is bound to get.
Yeah.
And I do think that's probably what's going to cause a lot of mischief with this series. Amazon and is Jackson in any way involved with this? I doubt it. Right? Yeah. But it seems to me when I watched this trailer that it's kind of a tribute. It's like a fan tribute. It's what some fan who only understood part of what Jackson was trying to do created.
That makes sense. Yeah. Given what I've seen from because Amazon's published some stuff that I've seen through other sources in like Vanity Fair magazine, some of the other stuff that they've put out, and it's clear that they have no respect or even familiarity with, Evan, like you said, the original source material at all. Some of these guys might have watched the movies when they came out 20 years ago, and that seems to be the last sense of familiarity that the two showrunners, I forget their names, these two guys, that they have with this at all.
And that works when you're dealing with something like The Hobbit. The Hobbit is a standalone story. It's a fairy tale. It's a different genre from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, it had to be. Even Tolkien had to revise it to bring it into line with Lord of the Rings.
And it's also well, he didn't just revise it. He also wrote the story of its composition. And in that story of its composition, he identifies it as a different kind of text from Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings is an epic. The Hobbit is a kind of folksy fairy tale. And what was I going to say with that? A bunch of other things popped into my head just as I was.
What would you think that this show should be? Should it be epic or fairy tale?
Well, okay, so the stakes are low if you're. Thank you, Joe. The stakes are low if you're retelling the story of The Hobbit, because it really, of all of Tolkien's writings, it works best as a single feature film.
Well, this is
a short, one bite-sized story. You don't necessarily have to dip into the broader lore to tell it.
This show isn't.
But this is about the Silmarillion and about So that's what I'm saying. The stakes are higher because it dips back into Tolkien's even more epic lore than Lord of the Rings.
Well, the interesting thing here is, so Evan, so exactly to your point, these guys, the one thing I do know is that they don't have the rights to the Silmarillion.
Right.
That's why the thing they have the rights to, and what they're basing this off of, are the appendices in the Lord of the Rings. That's what they have the rights to. And of course, and I even as far as just the pure story goes, they're butchering that too. So your point stands about the fact that this touches the even deeper part of the lore, and so it touches on more of the epic nature, and the epic genre. But
it's really intended to, I think, because they booked five season show right off the bat. So they were planning something that was going to take a long time to tell and go through many chapters.
Which I don't understand, actually. There's a couple of chronology points I'll get into as the trailer goes on that it actually doesn't make sense to me. That if I was Amazon and I invested 5 seasons into this story, and I was even calling it The Rings of Power, there's a lot of stuff that they should be showing that honestly I'm kind of confused as to why they're leaving it out entirely.
We should talk about what it is they actually do show you in the trailer and what they don't, because I think that's kind of interesting.
All right, we can.
Elves have forests to protect.
Forests!
Which also isn't true, because not all of the elves live in forests, but that's in.
But we Harfoots have each other.
See, this is a dumb line. But we Harfoots have each other. Unlike the elves, unlike the dwarves.
Whatever. Yeah.
What we have that is unique is, I guess, other members of our species or something like that.
Yeah.
I know what they're trying to say, but it's just so poorly said.
We're safe.
You have
loosely based. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Put up your sword.
Can we just stop for a second, just so I can rant for a one bit about, again, like I am not a lore master when it comes to Tolkien by any even small stretch of the imagination. I'm more familiar with Batman than I am with a lot of these characters. But one of the things that just from reading the books, right? Galadriel was never a soldier. She is the I think we might have talked about this when you guys were here, and we were talking about that notion of like femininity, right? Galadriel is like the height of feminine power, right? She's probably like the wisest of the elves, right? There's a reason she's held in such high esteem, but her power wasn't in like military might or strength. That was never Galadriel ever. So this whole, like, the entire plot line that they've laid out for her, this like slayer of orcs, the commander of the northern armies, like that might be a great story, but it's not Galadriel's story.
Question. What was it that happened to Dol Guldur towards the latter half of the Lord of the Rings trilogy? It's in the background, right? But doesn't Galadriel something happens or what am I thinking of? Dol is overthrown by Galadriel, is it not?
Are you?
Am I using the wrong word? What's the name of that Mordor fortress at the southern part of Mirkwood? You know what I'm talking about?
Wouldn't we understand overthrown by Galadriel to mean overthrown by the armies of Lothlorien?
Yes, but was she not involved in any way?
Oh, you mean? Let's see. I don't think not ever as a soldier.
Okay. We haven't actually
the armies at Dol Guldur is led by Elrond, who we just saw.
Elrond. Okay.
Lady Arwen, Glorfindel, and then the dwarves Gloin and Dane. But yeah, not Galadriel's not involved with this, I don't think.
All right.
But okay. Anyway, I also just really hate their presentation of Elrond's character here. I don't like it.
All right.
The enemy is still out there. The question now is where?
It is over.
You have not seen what I've seen.
I have seen my share.
You have not seen what I have seen.
I will say that, right there, that looks good. I like that shot. I do. Aesthetically, I will give them some of the aesthetic shots.
I think their artists are good. I think that looks good. I think whatever this is.
I don't. Yeah. The one that you were just on though, the ship, that looked like a CGI out of a video. That looked like a video game cut sequence to me.
These all look like video game cut sequences to me.
Like that scene where
because that's literally what they are. They're
with the tree.
They're made the same way.
But I don't like the scene where we were with what's his name? Oh goodness,
Celebrimbor.
Yeah, I think so. Under the tree. This one, to me that looks a lot better. That looks a lot more rendered than the other.
Well, look, all that's real here is this. I don't even know how much of this tree is real, but I'm pretty sure the rest is all artists.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm just now seeing Evan's chat in the private chat. That's funny as hell. Yeah, that's funny. But yeah. All right. I thought the same thing when we were all laughing. But look.
The thing is it goes. It doesn't make any sense.
He has the timestamp.
Well, I scrolled back for it. It doesn't make any sense. Is the thing.
Exactly.
It makes sense in our world why there are mixed races all over the place. In a fantasy medieval world, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, it doesn't.
It doesn't make sense at least for this sort of extent of it.
It doesn't make sense for this work. Because Tolkien was explicit about his intention to make this a mythology for the English people, right? Like if you were retelling one of the African mythologies and you cast all white people for that story, people would be like, "What are you doing?" That's weird, right? You're telling a mythology of this people.
I don't really like that argument, and the reason is because Middle Earth is very, very big, and there are different races in Middle Earth.
Sure, but when it's considered geographic, again, this is Tolkien's own words, right?
Mm-hmm.
This was meant to be a mythology for the English people, and that's why the Shire, even just geographically, it all kind of corresponds, right? The Shire is a little more north. It's England, basically.
I understand
right?
all of this, yes.
And where he describes, like Joe, you were talking about the various races and things like that are in Middle Earth. They're out there, but they also are in vastly other parts of the world.
They're in places that make sense, and that's the only thing that matters to me. Is when I'm watching this and I see somebody that looks very different, my mind is like, what's going on here? Is there immigration? Is there,
Well, then you have to explain why they're.
I want to, in fantasy or sci-fi, I think having a consistent world is really, really important, right?
Well, consistency in storytelling in general is just really important.
I wanted to say something about this earlier, actually. It's not exactly the same point, but TV writers and contemporary novelists specialize in psychological drama, right? They focus on the inner states of the main character. And that makes it very hard for contemporary writers to tell an epic story where, I mean, and that's actually why if you've read a lot before you approach something like Beowulf, it's shocking, right? Because you don't get an insider's perspective on the psychology of Beowulf. At the moment he fights Grendel, you don't get to hear his doubts, his feelings of confidence. He just does it, and it's over, and he moves on to the next action. So, and the Lord of the Rings and Tolkien's universe in general is meant to be read alongside works like Beowulf and not alongside works like Harry Potter, which is written in that same contemporary, psychological drama mode. So I think TV writers would have a very hard time, just without knowing anything else about this series, they'd have a really hard time handling the material because of what they're used to writing.
Yeah.
And they're going to fill in lots of blank. They have to, but I think that it's going to make the world feel very, very small. Is they're going to have to try to bring the threads of their different characters, all of whom have important psyches, together. And again, that the whole point, one of Tolkien's main sub-creative intents is to write the story of a world that goes on living after the readers moved on. So that if ever you return, it's believable that not only that this part of the world exists and it continues to exist whether the reader's hearing about it or not, but that there's a whole wide world beyond even what the author describes in the entire
That's a good point.
Entire story. So one concrete illustration of that, and I think this is something, although I never finished the Harry Potter books, I know how they end. One major difference between, say, a writer like Tolkien and Rowling is that in the end of the Harry Potter books, Rowling felt the pressure from her readers because they've been trained to read like contemporary readers. Felt the pressure to tie up all the loose ends. And what that did is it made the whole world somehow directly or indirectly relate to this one person, her main character. And that made the world feel incredibly small in the final analysis. If my litmus test for whether you've effectively subcreated is whether it's credible at the end of the story to have the 1970s classic plot twist where the main character wakes up from a dream. Harry wakes up from the closet under the stairs. And you're like, that kind of makes sense because it turns out that everything in the world that existed had some bearing on his life and was ultimately ordered to his good directly, So I do think that contemporary writers have a hard time handling epic because it's so impersonal. And it really doesn't cater to the reader in the same way. And Tolkien was happy to leave what other people have called broken references.
Yeah, I think that actually I think that's right. That's really insightful, and it probably explains.
I'm going to give us something else to look at here.
Yeah, sure. But why? Yeah. Why they had to invent these Harfoot characters? Because what I've been given to understand from season 1 is that the little girl we just saw, or whatever, the one that in the trailer that sees the rock fall down or explode, she's the main, like, she's from what I've been told is the main, like the narrative center. Like, so I mean, Galadriel is supposed to be the main character for the season and we follow her, but this Harfoot, these invented Harfoot characters are, maybe Evan, if I can, they're the psychological center, or it seems like they're going to be the psychological narrative center to this season.
I think you give too much credit.
There does have to be some of that, though. Tolkien was really deliberate about choosing hobbits in Lord of the Rings and in The Hobbit as his main character because they knew so little about the outside world. They could be stand-ins for the everyman, right? So you don't want to start with a world-weary Aragorn as the main character because it's really hard to get your bearing as the reader in this strange new universe. There's relatively little for him to learn. Or Gandalf. Can you imagine trying to tell the story of Lord of the Rings from the perspective of Gandalf?
Yeah.
He's already loaded with so much information about the world that it would be a guessing game on the part of the reader if you didn't get extensive glimpses into his own
This is why I argued that they should not have made Galadriel and Elrond feature so prominently in this show. And in fact, so a lot of people wanted to just see like the characters that Tolkien made brought to life on the screen for this new series. But in my opinion, that is precisely the wrong direction they could take it. And instead, they should. I don't think Harfoots are the right choice, but I think they should be picking up some smaller person who gets caught up in all of the big events of the Second Age, or some of them, or different characters across different time periods that get caught up in the different events of the Second Age, or something like that. Because Galadriel is already a written, established person who's not going to really, who doesn't really need to develop or change. Like, I know the angle they're working on based on some line from Tolkien where he says that she was like more aggressive in her younger years, more ambitious.
But you realize by the Second Age, she's 2,000 years old already.
Right.
By the time, so like in this show, and first of all, they seriously do mess with the chronology in this show.
To be fair, I think it's pretty standard in like sci-fi fantasy when you have a race that lives a long time to extend their adolescent period proportionately.
Sure, but it's, when you've got 5 seasons for something, and here, like in season 1, when even the showrunners said that they've taken thousands of years and have compressed them into a couple of weeks. And they've also messed up even some of the other, even concerning the rings themselves, they've messed up the chronology. But at this point, at the Second Age, like if you want to tell the story of young Galadriel, this isn't the time period. This isn't the age of Middle Earth to tell the story of young Galadriel. She is already well established. She's been married to Celeborn at this point, which they don't show in the show. Right? Like just all of that. It's
Yeah.
But all right, let's pick up with
all right.
Who?
All right.
I'm missing something.
Galadriel.
Oh, I get it now. Ha ha. That's funny.
I just think these lines are so weakly written.
The question now is where?
No, that's right.
It is
like this doesn't feel like Tolkien dialogue at all.
This feels like
even this. You have not seen what I've seen.
This is like a soap opera.
Yes.
Is that supposed to be a young Celeborn?
No, this is
Elrond, bro.
This is Elrond.
Oh.
So they're
but he's not the Matrix guy.
No.
No.
Oh.
Yeah, he's not Agent. He is not Agent Smith.
That would have been great, but they could not get him, I guess.
But
yeah, it's over. Oh, you haven't seen what I've seen. Oh yeah, I have. No, you haven't.
How do you know for sure it's Elrond?
They told us.
This has been part of the. Yeah, this has been
I
part
don't
of
follow
the
any of this very closely.
Oh yeah, we rate on it every so often.
You have not seen what I've seen.
I have seen my share.
You have not.
Seen.
Is it just me, or does he look like a young Quentin Tarantino?
I could see that now.
Where'd he go?
Quentin Tarantino as a young lad elf.
Young lad Tarantino.
I feel like he's a believable hobbit.
Hmm.
I know we're supposed to believe he's an elf there, but when I saw this trailer, I thought, is Galadriel talking to a hobbit?
He does look really small and frail, kind of, doesn't he? His shoulders drooping down so sharply and stuff. He does look a little young or weak.
You have not seen what I've seen.
I have seen my share.
You have not seen.
All right. Do we know what this is supposed to be?
No, at least I haven't seen an explanation for this yet.
All right.
What I have seen.
Darkness will march over the face of the earth. It will be the end, not just of our people, but
okay, can we stop on? So that's supposed to be. This is Tarmiriel, who is the last. Tarmiriel is the last. So this is what I was talking about with the chronology, right? So again, it's been a long time since I've read these stories and all, but there are some things that stand out. Tarmiriel is oh goodness, because I forget whose daughter she is. She's supposed to be the rightful queen of Numenor, right? Now Tolkien describes her as fairer than silver, and a few other really light things. I'll, whatever, right? So, but she's supposed to be the rightful queen of Numenor, and her husband, what's his name? Pharazôn. There's a prefix to it. I forget. Right. Pharazôn ends up usurping the throne from her, and she kind of gets reduced to being the queen regent. But it's Pharazôn who oversees the fall of Numenor after the making of the rings, right? Tarmiriel actually is born 1,600 years after the forging of the Rings of Power. Right? So this is how far the timeline is being condensed, right? Is that in this season, in season 1, you have the last queen of Numenor. You have a Sauron who hasn't even been revealed yet, although I know who it is. And you don't even have the forging of the rings, which according to the chronology, the source material, were 1,600 years prior to Tarmiriel's reign in Numenor, right? Because again, she's queen regent. Her husband Pharazôn is king when Numenor falls, right? They are the last king and queen of Numenor before the splitting of the earth and the reshaping and everything else. So I mean, that's how messed up the timeline is.
I can appreciate the difficulty of trying to adapt the source material that extends for,
But you've all right. But that was my point earlier, right? If you're Amazon and you invested, $1 billion for this, and you had
more than that, I think like 5 or 6 billion,
and you had 5 seasons. Don't you think you would want to show actually the rise of Sauron? First of all, you've got the whole Melkor series, the Melkor saga that doesn't even get brought up, right? Then you have the rise of Sauron, his being brought into Numenor, the forging of the Rings of Power, right? The corruption of the kings, the whole religion of Numenor, right? And then you've got later, a couple 1,000 years later, you finally have the total and complete fall of Numenor, the breaking of the earth, Sauron becoming the demon that we see later on in Lord of the Rings, right? Because he still has his shape-shifting power early on, right? You have all of these stories that you could tell. If you had 5 seasons, there is so much that you could tell here.
Lying behind the criticism is, I think, different judgments about exactly what this show is supposed to be doing. Is this supposed to give a synopsis account of everything before the material that fans would have been familiar with in the movies? Or is it just supposed to be
the show
a playground
called
within
the Rings
Tolkien's
of
broader
Power?
Lore? In which case you could, you could just choose. So maybe that's, I guess, I wonder what they're trying to do, like just reverse engineer the conversation that took place at the Amazon meeting.
Yeah, it's a legitimate question.
Are they just, I guess, begin by asking which audience are they trying to please, right? So
they're trying to please a global audience. As soon as it comes with $1 billion price tag, it's a global audience.
But then why even bother? Since global audiences, if the not to discredit Phil's criticisms, but he represents a very small minority of people who would see this and be bothered by the chronological malfeasance, right? Not many people would have any background knowledge of Tolkien approaching this series. So I sincerely wonder about it. Do they say? I remember reading an article where somebody at Amazon said something like, "We need our Game of Thrones series," right?
Yeah, I know that they do want this to be their Game of Thrones. Yeah,
but how I wonder in what respect this is going to be their Game of Thrones series. I'm not talking about the nudity. I mean,
yeah, and I never saw Game of Thrones, and I never read the book, so I don't.
Do they want to be a standalone series that can really appeal to the newcomer? Do they want it to just dip in? I guess maybe they're trying to please Tolkien fans with just enough references that this is how some director at Amazon pictures this person to be, or pictures this event to have taken place. In which case, if their main audience is the kind of people who are happy, the kinds of people who are happy with Game of Thrones, they don't really have to do much except maybe nod to the Tolkien branding, to sell tickets to this. So, but here's one question I have. If I'm sitting at that meeting, I'd raise my hand and I'd say, okay, boss, I see the story you're trying to tell. Don't you think we're going to make the Tolkien diehards really upset with this stuff that we're doing? And then what's the boss's reaction likely to be? Well, who cares? That's the bottom line.
If it was anything like Kathleen Kennedy's reaction in Star Wars about we don't want 40-year-old white dudes, then. But look at how well that worked out for them.
I don't know. I bet they made a lot of money on the Star Wars movies.
I think the backlash actually caught them by surprise.
I know that I have heard they've already not canceled, but they've already postponed and are reworking season 2 because of the backlash. Like this trailer, actually, Joe, you don't have the Chrome extension, do you?
For what? Oh, for the dislikes?
Yeah, to see the dislikes, because I know this this one has already been ratioed.
Brigading can happen though, so I wouldn't necessarily base too much on. So like when somebody says, "Hey guys, Amazon uploaded a new trailer, go dislike it,and like
I don't know about that.
Like, oh yeah, I'll do that. That does happen.
That's see really, so like really right common. Right now what I see is 5,500 upvotes to 24,000 dislikes on the Amazon. This is Amazon UK. Ooh, I wonder what the American one is.
I don't know if you guys were already. I'm not sure if you guys already.
Here we go. The one for Prime Video
being made, but if the if the idea is that not appealing to the diehard Tolkien fan would affect the more general audience, like if that's how the bosses are thinking, I think that like that's like clearly wrong, isn't it? Because, well, at least in a lot of cases,
the diehard, you think?
Yeah, well, because at least in some cases, you see articles, if there's an egregious, break from the source material, you'll see articles all over the place of people complaining about it, and then like, and I think for the general audience, member, that usually just translates to, well, it's probably not all that great. Then maybe I'll still enjoy it, but I'll take it with a grain of salt or something.
I just want to show real quick for the fish. Oh, go ahead.
Toss something in for Julian. Yeah, so I was the one who was imagining the boardroom conversation with the boss, and I was really just throwing out an open question. I don't know what really sells in TV shows right now, and I know that Game of Thrones did very well, and I know what Amazon said about it, but Julian, you were saying that. Well, I do wonder how much the hardcore Tolkien fans could really affect the rest of the fandom. But beyond that, I think that the risk is anything which threatens the link between this series and the films is likely to do it in financially, not the books. Because I think the films achieved much wider, much broader appeal than Tolkien's source material did. I mean, and there's no question that the Tolkien source material is better than Jackson's films and all of his other stuff. But I think that it's probably very few people who know enough about the source material to form that judgment.
That's one of the great things I think that's been happening, at least, Joe, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but like more people are actually, because of a lot of this that I'm hearing, are actually going to read the source material. Some of them for the first time. I think that's awesome. But anyway, go ahead, Joe.
Happy fault.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that the big market in movie making and TV shows right now is China. That's who you want to be able to sell to. You gotta make big here, but you got to make big over there too.
I don't know. Maverick made over $1 billion without any China money at all. So
that's
I do get what you're saying. Like that is
compare it to like Marvel. What did Endgame make? Yeah, because that was one of the last big global ones that I can just rattle off the top of my head.
Yeah. I just wanted to show this for the 126,000 upvotes to just 1.7 million dislikes. Just to put that out there.
And I see that you've contributed.
Yeah, I didn't know that I contributed actually. So all right, I'll go ahead and add my.
He did
I'll
it in his
add.
sleep.
I guess I did. I guess I did, but
Hands hanging
I
out
have
of his bed just clicking.
because I have no recollection of that. But
In his sleep, creating new accounts. Just a dislike.
All right, let's get through this here.
He was blackout drunk.
All peoples.
Wait. Sorry, I'm gonna back it up just so you guys read it.
But all
Oh,
peoples.
I was trying to figure out the beginning of that line.
I am sorry, but their time has come.
The past is with us all. The past is dead.
I do want to hang on for a second for that. The past is dead line.
Does that remind you too much of The Last Jedi?
Yes. It's one of those things. Somebody else pointed this out, right? Like when it happens once, it's a line. When it happens twice, you're like, okay, like I'm wondering about, like twice is kind of a pattern. 3 times, like when it happens between, like, so it happened in Star Wars, it happened with Marvel, and it's happening here. Like now it seems like this is a message.
3 is a conspiracy.
3 is a
Well,
it's a conspiracy. I'm just
well,
I
look.
think
I'm
it's
happy
just
to be.
maybe that Hollywood writers had really bad childhoods, and they're all trying
Maybe
to get
so.
away from it.
Look, you have no idea how much I want to eat a big bowl of crow on this. I want to be wrong with everything that I'm thinking.
in general, I really like the
I don't like the
artist
shot.
work. I think it looks like cheap CGI.
It
But
does
I
look
like
like
the vision. Like I like their thinking.
Joe. If you
Yeah.
invested $6 billion in something, and
I would be most displeased. But
yeah,
He would pay the writers first and not last after the CGI.
yes.
I'm not very happy with the writing either.
CGI has become, to your point earlier with Jackson kind of gradually losing his way. I think his new CGI tools that were being developed while he was making the trilogy were actually instrumental.
You know what's funny though?
to
To
decline.
that CGI point, I am not going to go see the new Jurassic Dominion whatever movie. I won't. But I saw one of the last ones, and it floors me that 25 years ago, actually now it's 30 years ago, Jurassic Park looks more realistic than this last movie. Like how is it that the CGI technology from Jurassic Park 1995, 94, 95, and of course they used animatronics and things like that too, right? How is it now that looks better than these, hundreds of $1 million budget movies that these guys have?
It
looks terrible.
I want to speak to this.
Speak to it.
Because we just saw
Educate
Dune at your apartment a little while ago, right?
Yeah, we did.
So I think Dune is a good example of somebody that knows how to use CGI. I think too many directors, directors, CGI just means, all right, so that means we can tape it in a cheap studio with a bunch of green walls, right? And you can just draw whatever I want, right? But Villeneuve, when he was doing Dune, knew that, for example, if he used green screen, then it would reflect green light onto his actors in the middle of the desert. And so they made it work to use a brown green screen that had never been done before. And they did other things too. So there's this one shot you might remember right when the city on Arrakis is being bombed from the sky, and there's some of the soldiers from House Atreides running, and there's like explosions in the background.
Yeah.
So none of those explosions were real. But what Villeneuve did was flash actual lights from behind the actors to the camera to emulate the lens flare so that the actors wouldn't be illuminated. I saw a really good video of this comparing it to the way Marvel really messes this up all the time. In scenes when your characters should be mostly in darkness, the camera shouldn't be able to capture what it's capturing. The CGI makes it still capture it. And this here looks like something of an example to me. Like these guys should, I think, be almost like his back should be really, really dark. The shadows are coming from the left
Yeah.
His back isn't even as dark as the shadow. Like they get afraid almost to not show you what the hard work of the artists or the costume designers, right? They just don't want to put it in darkness. And Villeneuve is fearless. Spilling my drink. He's fearless in that he'll silhouette everything, right? Because there's an explosion, and that's just what camera work looks like.
Yeah.
Did you guys see Blade Runner 2049?
I've seen it. Yeah.
That's another Villeneuve.
Mm-hmm.
Also great.
Yeah.
I've liked everything. I haven't always liked the stories. I know he did that one about space aliens or something. I don't remember what it's called, but I didn't care for the story in that one. But he did the first Sicario.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
I did like that. I did see that one. That was good.
All of his stuff is directorially, visually distinct and top notch.
There's not a lot in this shot if you look at it. That's just you can't actually see what's there. But aren't we like underground? Right? Isn't this
if this is one of if this is one of the dwarf kingdoms, then yeah.
We're not completely underground because I see some greenery here.
Well,
but
you can
it's
have
at least nighttime.
Yeah, because you can see where like the
sole light sources are like the moon from way back here, and a few torches. Yeah. But it's so well lit.
In fairness, you have a beam of moonlight coming through in the distance, right?
In the distance.
Where it's like water vapor or water or something. But it's conceivable that they're in some kind of partially open-ended cavern and there's a light source above them. You see the pathway illuminated ahead as if it were.
Yeah, but I think that's an error. Look at the shadows again.
To me, it kind of. I would agree with Joe on that one.
Well, yeah, this guy's left shoulder wouldn't be lit up because of that moonbeam on the path in front of him, right?
Yeah.
It gets the lighting wrong. It loses points. Can we finish this video so we can talk to straight?
Sorry.
Yeah.
The past is with us all. The past is dead. We either move forward or we die with it.
This could be the beginning of a new era.
So, in a what is that?
Sorry.
Ringtone.
That was my
immersion breaking.
I got boys ringing in my ear.
For a show that's called The Rings of Power, I have yet to see anything having to do with the Rings of Power in any of the teasers or this trailer or any of the dialogue or really anything having to do with the show at all.